you plug and it's all plugged in and everything?
It's all plugged in. Let us pray for a moment that it works. Oh, internet gods, please work for us. Thank you very much. Dear God, how silly are we, right? Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
2 for 1. How are you?
I can't believe as Scott that I'm the one without a glass.
Oh, do we have to just hang up on you now?
What?
Oh my goodness.
Spirit.
So here I am.
Love it. It's worked out great.
Guess what? COVID. Hey, pandemic living. We're not going anywhere. It's okay.
No, we don't seem to be. Although you might have read the news today. We got it first thing this morning. One of the newspapers in Berlin carried the news that the Senate has now backtracked on its whole issue with choral singing and singing in closed spaces. I think there was so many protests from so many Berlin choirs and singers that they have now agreed to this. So it really will mean that, I mean, that's sort of small mercies for us here in the States or in North America, but Germany really has gotten its act together, and when I go back in August, I think we will be able to do some, albeit limited performances. And so we're aiming to, it's a decision we'll have to take in the next 2-3 days, but we have a part 2 of the Ring, Die Walküre,
Right.
which is scheduled for the end of September. And we did this small Rheingold back in end of June. It's a version that Graham Vick for his Birmingham company made. Jonathan Dove, this incredibly talented Brit who's both composer but also arranger. Anyway, he scaled an 85-piece orchestra down to 22. So we were out, and you know the Deutsche Oper, you probably don't remember this quirky part of it, but it's just the nature of the building that it has this kind of quadrangle in the middle, which the upper part of which is the parking garage. So we, and part of it is covered over because large pieces of scenery are stored there when they're not needed on stage. And of course, just to weatherproof them, there's a cover, there's a roof. So we put the orchestra there. We built a podest, what's the word, platforms out to cover part of this parking deck. And that's where we did this, we called it Kleingold, you know, the small Rheingold.
Gold instead of Rheingold.
and we had, and it really was, I mean, it's we're rather proud of the fact, but this wasn't in order to you know, have this wasn't to be competitive, as you can imagine, but we were the only place in the world that you would have heard Wagner at the end of June. The only place in the world.
Wow.
So anyway, part 2 of that, I'm sorry, this is a Wagnerian story because, you know, Wagner's long, so I will go on for a few more hours.
We're not going anywhere.
No.
All right, drink up, ladies. I'll do the talking, you do the drinking.
It's great to see you. No, that's it. Hey,
oh, it's great to see you. Anyway, we are planning to do the original Die Walküre with Stefan Herrheim, the director. We will postpone the Rheingold until the end of this season, and we plan on going ahead with the full-scale Die Walküre on the 27th of September, and we haven't given up on that.
Cool.
So put that next to where we find ourselves in North America, and it's wow, quite a contrast, isn't it? Yeah. I'm actually out on our deck. I sort of dashed home and just set this up, so I'm sorry the lighting's not great. But
it's beautiful.
We're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and the only thing that could come between us is a large moose, or else I was who was it? Oh yes, it was with the ASO, the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and I had this war room, as we call it, war Zoom on Monday, and it was really rather funny because both myself and somebody else on that Zoom call had to excuse ourselves because there was this phenomenally loud lawnmower going past. And we were just had this vision of it's because somehow it's national. You know how you listen today's national let's drink a bottle of scotch day, or this felt like National Lawnmower Day. Anyway, this is welcome to Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
How is it you guys getting from Berlin to Jackson Hole too?
Oh, Sandra, we came for, of course, some people thought, you're going where? What are you doing? But of course, we still intended to salvage some of the Grand Teton Music Festival. Two, this is our summer home. I mean, we live here. This is not a rented place. It's our summer home. And also just for reasons that I have a green card, and things are a little scary in America at the moment when it comes to these sort of things.
Yeah.
So we thought, and we also, this was an important part of the decision. Julia, our 15-year-old, is crazy about horses. And of course, this is just horse heaven.
Yeah.
And therefore she desperately wanted to come here. And so we thought, let's do it. And she's been riding every day, and she just took part, it was very cute, last Sunday in her first competition ever, and she came in with the second prize. And
cool.
No, she'd move here in a heartbeat.
Awesome.
She just absolutely loves it. Anyway, so for all those reasons, we thought, all right, we're going to go. But the journey, as you can imagine, was just epic. It was epic. It was stressful because there were more connections because of fewer flights.
Right.
I get that. So we read online that the Grand Tetons is going on virtually.
Yes, we had a plan A, plan B, and a plan C, and we found that, as you can imagine, that they were all reacting to this very fluid situation. Initially, we wanted an orchestra of around 34 people to come, as opposed to 230 musicians throughout the summer. But that just became less and less likely as it became more and more clear, not just with the spike in COVID cases in Wyoming, but also just it would have appeared tone deaf if people were being encouraged to stay at home, keep your distance, blah blah blah, and then albeit the distances were all measured, it would have complied with all the distances that you need to maintain. But we just thought, this is, and bringing a lot of people in, what happens if somebody gets sick? Who is ultimately responsible? In addition to which, we're in a very, very, albeit precious, but very small town. And the hospital could so easily be just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So we scaled it back, and even with 19 musicians, we felt at the moment that's too many. So nevertheless, we have a number of musicians from the big orchestras who have their summer homes here.
Okay.
So they happen to live here.
Okay.
And we're bringing a couple of soloists in. I can't tell you yet who these soloists are, just because there will be a press release about it.
Okay.
But they have, one of them is driving because they don't want to take any risks with flying. And yes, we will, over 6 or 7 days, we'll do a lot of recording, not just in the hall. It will all be streamed. It will all go out a week later. But there are, as you can imagine, many beautiful places, backdrops. We'll take a video with us. You have to go hiking here, and we have a couple of mountain goats in our orchestra. So we'll let them lead the way.
Awesome.
And we're just going to put little programs together. We're not dead yet.
It's hard though. It really is hard. It's difficult some days.
It is hard.
So how did your connection with Wyoming start? I mean, you obviously weren't born there.
Well, I thought the hat was. I first came here, Sandra. It was in 2005 when I'd often heard about this festival and a number of San Francisco opera musicians, of which I was the music director at the time. came here and said, "Oh, Maestro, you have to conduct here sometime." And I was in London, I was in Salzburg, I was in Bayreuth, blah, blah, blah. In other words, I was far more in Europe. And I thought, all right, well, I'll make it work 1 year. So I came. Something really rather extraordinary happened between myself and the orchestra. And rather serendipitously, they were in the midst of a music director search. And I think the powers that were thought, well, Runnicles will never give up the European connection and the summer festivals there. So actually just one of the orchestra manager came in. You might even know him, Sandra. Richard Brown. He's in Houston. He's
Yes.
Well, he's not known for his tact or for his reticence. He just barged in one day and said, "Hey, this is pretty amazing. You wouldn't like to become music director, would you?" And I think he was expecting some, "Oh, it's wonderful, I love you, but no." I thought to myself, because I just experienced 3 or 4 days with this unbelievable orchestra, that comes from all the big orchestras. And I said, I could consider that. So anyway, I was appointed music director, and my first season was in 2006. And it literally happened that quickly. And my manager thought I was nuts. Thought, why on earth would you give up all these other things? And said, "Jonathan, get out here, experience this." And he came out, and he was as wooed and beguiled as I was. And I'm just personally so sorry, Sandra, it didn't work out this year, but we'll most certainly have you back, because it really is, it defies logic in that you're bringing so many people together from so many different orchestras, where you'd think, well, what about the sound? What about this feeling of the actor react together? Mm-hmm. But within days, and this I experience on a weekly basis normally, within days, there's this alchemy that just forms before your eyes or ears. And it's one of the world's great orchestras. And I get to be, I didn't make this orchestra great. I have a terrific relationship with them. But that's why I'm still here, and that's one reason we bought a place here as a summer home. And it's hardly a hardship being here, even in these surreal times.
Sure.
Well, I'm sure the population isn't super large either. So, and you have isolation there out where you are, so you can take precautions and be safe, I'm sure. It's not like you're in downtown Nashville or New York or something.
No. I mean, as I told you, I was in town earlier on, and people are being generally very vigilant and obedient about masks. But yeah, I mean, this is an extraordinary part of the world, and behind many of these large small forests of aspens, there are some extraordinary homes where people naturally have their distance, and in those homes live some of the most influential people in this country.
Yeah.
We just don't hear about it because that's why they live here. They don't want you to hear about it. And so many of them are, and that's the reason the festival, in some ways, well, in a very real sense, one of the reasons the festival was built up was because so many people who had second homes coming from New York or Los Angeles or even from London or places like that, Atlanta, they were very happy to get away from the big urban centers for the summer, but they didn't want to miss their music. Right. So that's why they created this festival. And it's now, gosh, how many years is it? Well, next year is the 60th anniversary, 60th. We're just in the midst of, as you can imagine, is to what extent do we try to salvage what we would have had this year,
right,
and put it into next year? But then again, there were commitments already which we don't wish to disrespect. So it's
sure,
it's a challenge, but I think we all just desperately need this sound of silence to stop.
Yes, please. I was curious when I looked at your schedule from flying into the United States and flying back out, since I'm not allowed with my US passport, I am assuming that your passport is not a US one. So that means you are allowed to fly back into Germany for your upcoming fall performances and then back in if ASO is happening too. Is that something you're allowed to do?
I'll call you from the airport, Gary, and let you know whether they'll let me in or not. I mean, it's really genuinely an issue for us because I have okay, I'll give it away. I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland. Sandra knows.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, really?
Oh, wait. I have something here.
Oh my goodness, what do you have? Another bottle of scotch. Oh, yeah, I was almost right.
Yeah, there you go. Can you see that? That was from this last summer. Yep. I still have it. I'll hold it very, and it is still full, by the way.
Okay.
I think
good on you. Well done.
I think you have tchotchkes from every show you do. Like, yeah, okay.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You're from Edinburgh, shock of all shocks.
Shock of all shocks. I'm from Edinburgh, from Aldrich. So I mean, I have a British passport.
Okay.
So that, and I have also a German Aufenthaltserlaubnis. It's a right to work. So, but we were looking at this situation because as it now looks, we would have to, within 48 hours of traveling back to Germany, have to have taken a test, which of course should be negative. Otherwise, we would have to arrive there and go into voluntary isolation for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Which we, on many levels, can't afford to do. So,
right.
So I mean, that's the situation. We can actually get back.
You can.
Into Germany. But it's an extraordinary situation, Gary, when you think as an American citizen, you, at the moment.
Nothing.
Do it.
No, thank you. Stay away.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. I would say the same thing, to be quite honest. I wouldn't want what I am seeing happening downtown Nashville to go over to another country who has things that are contained. The numbers are lower. I mean, I don't blame them, to be quite honest. I'd say don't come here too. So.
I know.
Why do you think, is this really all, don't want this to get too political.
No, well, listen, it's an edited show, so.
No, but has this really just to do with the First Amendment? Has this just to do with the people showing their right to do whatever they want, that nobody can tell them what to do? Is that the reason? Because it's just, as I'm sure for both of you, for us, for so many people, it's suicidal. And this is not about a political affiliation. This is to do with life. Okay, it's a binary decision, but it's not Democrat and Republican. It's life or death. And
But it hasn't been put that way in our country. And it turned into a political thing. It turned into, I live in the South, so it's also a religious issue because those two have become intertwined in the last however many years. So it's a stance not to wear a mask on many different levels. And I think because at President Trump just now got on national television yesterday and said that you should wear a mask. And it's something that should have happened 4 months ago when he shut everything down in March. And so in my opinion, it's more than just the First Amendment. It's a lot of stuff going on in this country. And so it's heartbreaking because how many more people have to die? How many more people have to be intubated before these, in a lighter word, shenanigans? I mean, it just needs to stop. We all need to get back to work. And if wearing a mask enables us to do that, and I mean even just shopkeepers, bartenders, whatever, just put on a damn mask so we can go back to work. And I think that's becoming more and more an accepted thing. I do see the changes happening here. They're just very slow. So
it's required here. You have to wear a mask here. If you go into a store, into a restaurant, the only place you don't have to wear it is outside in a cafe. But it's a $5.
Outside, I love that.
I didn't make fun of your accent now, did I?
No, I just couldn't resist it. Forgive me.
Out. Is that better? Is that better? Out and about? Well,
it reminds me all of a sudden of Pier 49 in San Francisco. Just, where there are a lot of very large sea creatures. But no, I'm
large sea creatures. That's
I should tell you my moose call. Should I make you laugh? Should I make you and Carrie laugh? So when I first moved to Canada, my husband and I, when we bought our house, is that better? Not house? House. We were driving from LA to Ontario, and in between there, there's a very flat area just north of where you are in Canada. And so I said to Duncan, I've never seen a moose. I want to see a moose. I want to see a moose. And he said, well, you have to do the moose call. And I said, wait, there's a moose call? And he said, yeah. Ready for it? And I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. So.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Do that again. Would you do that again?
You want me to look stupid?
Would you keep doing that?
Oh no, you're going to take a video of it.
No, I'm not going to take a video of it.
Oh yeah?
No, I'm not going to take a video of it.
Is it going to call them? Are the moose going to come if I keep doing it?
Would you try to get? Yeah, keep at it. You did say you were going to edit this show anyway, didn't you?
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Huge edit at this moment.
Gary Alcaba, please remember that. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
Oh, there's two of them.
Is that where you live?
In your yard?
Yeah. This is quite literally 10 feet away, behind us.
Do they do damage? Can they hurt you?
No, but they do amazing tap dancing.
They can hurt a car.
I want that.
That's amazing.
They can hurt. Yeah, that's the baby. That's the full.
Oh,
wow. That's cool.
Thank you. Well, see, look I made them come.
You said that's amazing. Don't edit that out.
No, well, we had one. We had one come right across the highway with the big antlers, and I was like, okay, I just saw a moose. I'm scared to death now. Go.
Well, they like so many of these animals, they will never bother you unless you bother them, or you come between them and their babies. But you have, they call them here moose jams, because there are just people who are driving along, they see a moose, and every rule of driving is all of a sudden, yes, exactly.
See, now you know how to call them.
And they just stop. And then everybody knows that when you see 6 or 8 pairs of brake lights,
yeah.
Oh my God! So they all leap out, and there's inevitably a moose, and then the wardens have to come and move people on. Otherwise, nobody gets through.
Duncan told me the plural of moose was meese too, and I wasn't blonde back then. Yeah.
That's bad.
I know,
Meese.
isn't that horrible? Meese. I know. I
learned a really completely useless word the other day. I was just on some word website, dictionary.com, and do you know what do you know what the plural of beef is?
Beef.
Beefs.
Oh, I love a beef
Beefs?
right now.
We're like what?
Buff. Beef pie. What is it?
It's beeves. Beeves, because once upon a time a beef was also
Beef.
another way of describing a cow, and it's just one of those really, as I say, it's hardly something that you're going to impress your friends with anytime soon. Well, you could, and then they just look at you and go,
exactly. Meese. Beeves. Oh dear.
That's a good trivia drinking. I like that. Yeah.
You like that?
Okay, let's be serious for a minute. Should we be serious? How did you become a conductor? Coming from Edinburgh.
Oh gosh, this is really serious.
I know. I want to know. I never asked you. Well, I could talk about your curtain call at the Deutsche Oper.
Oh, that's enough of me talking about myself. Why don't you talk about me? born and bred in Edinburgh. My father was an organist and choir master, so I sang in the choir as a choir boy, and was enormously enamored, enormously inspired by my father and what he did with all these disparate voices. At the same time, I was learning piano. At the same time, I had just received my first LPs. Not sure people listening will know what an LP is. And that was all about classical music. That was all about orchestral music. That was all about Richard Wagner. And that's when I thought at school, one day I would perhaps also like to see what it feels like to do what my father does. And I was given an opportunity as a young boy to basically, conduct a small group of my colleagues, my friends at school. I was 15 or 16, to go into an old people's home and just do a little medley. And I enjoyed it so much, and they seemed to think I had some talent. And we formed out of this a youth orchestra, which became bigger and bigger. So I really had what most young conductors salivate over, having something to practice on, an orchestra. And with that, at the same time, I was working on my piano, I was getting into opera, and it all really just came together, sort of this confluence of events in 1971, bless you dear, 1971. Hi. I'll in 1970, yeah. There was a performance of Wagner's Ring, and I went to that performance, and the rest is history. And that's when I decided it's opera, it's orchestral, it's becoming a conductor, becoming a repetiteur. That's right. And then I went to Germany when I was a young man, and learned the trade of this very well trodden, storied trail up the mountain as a young conductor. So that's basically in a nutshell.
I read an interview that you did that fascinated me, because it said that it's really important to you to have a connection with the orchestra, that you want to know these people in the sense that you want to all make music together. I hope I paraphrased that correctly. And I was an instrumentalist since I was a little kid. I played French horn all the way up to college. And then became an opera singer and couldn't do both at university. But there is something that I have found, not only being an instrumentalist, but being an opera singer, how important that connection is, because we feel it as an instrumentalist, as a singer on stage. There's something quite magical that happens when the person who is in charge, who's running the ship, is really invested in what they're doing and what they're playing. And I just wanted to ask you about that, why that is, from your words, not mine, why that is important to you. And is that something you've always searched for in the jobs that you've taken?
I think you just put it very eloquently, Kerry. I think I just need to say yes, 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 and yes. I think, particularly as a conductor, besides the groans and the grunts that Sondra knows so well standing 2 feet away from me during performance, otherwise I make no sound. Otherwise I'm completely and utterly dependent on everybody else to give of their best. I can't obviously know each and every person in terms of how has their day been, but I do think in the hours together where we get to make music, it is absolutely vital that I make them feel good about themselves, give them the genuine, or issue the genuine invitation to give of their best, and just through, well, I think at the core of all great music making, there is the word trust. Mm-hmm. And for me, trust is an absolutely two-way street. If the musicians trust me, then in some ways they will just go that extra mile. They will follow. But not follow in the sense of somebody's dictating it. Mm-hmm. Conversely, If I trust them, then I don't feel as if I have to dictate anything, because I know they're giving of their best, and they, each and every one of them, should feel like a soloist, and they have something to say through their music. Each and every one of us has become a musician because our voice is our music, and we have something to say about all the great questions in life through our music. And that is true from everybody. And therefore, in answer to your question, I do have to sense that it's almost, I'd be interested, Sandra, what you feel, because when we've worked together, but it's almost a spiritual connection. It's almost a feeling of, in that moment, you know, our entire world exists through vibrations. And when all those vibrations kind of line up, when musicians and conductors and singers and instrumentalists all feel in that moment that they're in the zone.
Yes.
That's only because there's mutual trust, mutual respect, and ultimately the humility of giving of your best.
Yeah.
I would say that, and you allow us as a musician to be free in the moment. I think you are very definite in your wants and needs musically and all of that when we're rehearsing. But then when we come to performance, there is a freedom because of that trust, and that we feel like you are supporting us because you set up that, I don't know, leading up to it. It was all set up perfectly, and that every T was crossed and every I was dotted. And I don't feel like when I was rehearsing with you that there was ever a moment, ooh, what is he going to do there? I don't know what he's going to do. You were very clear. You were very definite in setting up the rehearsal. Therefore, when it came to making the music, it could breathe. And it could be given that organic feeling. And I felt that there was always, though, that connection, that energy flowing between you and me on stage. Even if I wasn't looking at you, you were there, you were focused, and you were breathing with me. And that to me is the sign of an excellent conductor, that you take that breath with me and you allow me to breathe, because a lot of conductors just plow through things and they don't allow us to be humans, and every day is different. And maybe today, like you said, we're all human beings, and today you might have had a bad day or I might have had a bad day, and you compensate for that. And I really appreciated that and loved that about working with you. And really, truly, a highlight of my career was that Men on Let's Go. Mind-blowing. And the whole orchestra felt it too, not just me, and the whole audience felt it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm humbled, Sandra. I do absolutely agree with you. I think rehearsals are there to set the parameters of.
That's the word. Thank you. Yes.
The room within which we can all move with it feeling not only organic but spontaneous. But that is only possible if there is that trust. That's only possible, and I say this as if this should be an attribute. For me, it's a sine qua non. As a conductor, you have to be able to breathe with singers. And I'm not talking about just working with singers. I'm talking about working with a tubist or working with a violinist, or working with I was a French horn player too, Carrie.
Oh, cool.
I learned the French horn. I had a phenomenal teacher in Edinburgh who brought me on very quickly. The reason I learned it was not only because some of the best music is written for the French horn, Richard Strauss, Richard Wagner, etc., but it was for me to experience in an orchestra what it feels like to be conducted, and what are those things that I, as a musician, am looking for from a conductor. It was also to learn about intonation, to be a second horn, to be a first horn, to be a fourth horn. The whole ultimately pragmatic art of intonation.
Yeah.
And but at the bottom, at the lowest common denominator, if you like, or the highest, is breathing. Why is an audience? Why do we say it took my breath away? Because in that moment, in a very organic way, an audience was expecting, they were breathing, and something happened where all of a sudden they thought they were exhaling, and all of a sudden they were inhaling.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what makes an exciting, riveting performance. So it has all to do with the human breath. I think that's why I think, yes, sort of coming back to your question, Kerry, about do I actually seek this out, or when I work with why do I work with certain orchestras and not work with others? Happily, it's happened very rarely in my career that I've felt that I have nothing to offer, or that somehow the orchestra is breathing differently, or they're used to something, they're used to a different kind of music director, so they're used to a far more hands-on, slightly dictatorial, leave the music making up to me approach.
Wow. Okay.
But no, ultimately, I have such reverence and such awe over ladies and anybody standing up on that stage who are so good at their art. I mean, I don't know how you do what you do. I genuinely don't know how. I mean, I know how you do it, but to have all that it takes, not just the voice, not just the stature, but also just in that moment, the ego, in a good sense, to stand up and nobody else can sing it like this, or nobody else can play it like that. It's that admiration, which is, it's not just wanting to be popular with other artists. It's because I have a genuine, such admiration for people who do what they do so well. And you have to memorize it all, and you also have to bump into your colleagues, or not bump into your colleagues, or have colleagues bump into you, and you still have to remember you had 4 hours to put something on, and
their colleagues forget their words in the middle of a show, and you just go, uh-oh.
Or there's, exactly.
It's usually
here comes another one. No,
no, but it's true. Do you breathe differently with orchestras for orchestral music as opposed to opera music, or do you think it's the same? Yeah, God bless you. You are amazing.
No, it's all about being amazing. I think there's this. I think that's one of the saddest things about in America. There's this artificial divide, this continental divide between opera and symphonic. Operatic conductors very rarely conduct symphonies, or vice versa. As if really they are two different, as if they're two disciplines, which is outrageous. It's utterly outrageous. They are exactly the same. They just manifest themselves differently. Right. But at the core of great symphonic playing, conducting, interpretation is the human voice. Which great pianist was it? I want to say it was Arthur Schnabel who was asked by somebody when you're approaching a new Chopin Polonaise or Mazurka, how do you approach that music? And he said, well, first of all, I imagine how would the greatest singer in the world phrase something? And I try to then recreate that at the piano. Wow. I rest my case.
It's for an American singer, it's extremely difficult if you are known as an opera singer to actually, we're not talking Sandra level, a couple levels underneath her, but it's really difficult if you're known as an opera singer to actually break into the symphony world and sing concerts with symphonies. It feels like, and we singers have talked about this, that we end up in these camps of one or the other.
You're absolutely right. It's almost born of ignorance that this divide between if you sing symphonic, you don't sing opera, or the other way around. Having said that, there are certainly certain voices,
absolutely,
that are far more comfortable in the symphonic repertoire, perhaps, there's some people don't have operatic voices, or don't necessarily have large voices that will carry or that will project. But I think those are more exceptions. When you look back at the Schwarzkopfs, and you look back at Hans Hotter, you look back at Fischer Dieskau. Fischer Dieskau spent as much time singing in the symphonic repertoire as he did singing Rosa and Don Carlo.
Right.
And so I think that's more of an American phenomenon.
I know.
Which I think is a very sad one, and I feel for those who feel as if they've been straitjacketed for no fault of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, what makes for a good singer? What makes for the singer that you would want to work with? When you say, oh my gosh, I have to work with this person, what are the qualities, the attributes? Just for the young artist out there so we can teach them.
Oh gosh, no pressure.
No, sorry. I could do the moose call again.
No, so I would say that I assume that somebody has a really good technique. I'm not a singing teacher. I'm a vocal coach, and then when I'm working with any singer, I'm talking more about interpretative things. So assuming a young singer has a good technique or solid technique, I think, and this is something I've experienced far more in this country than, for instance, in Europe. I think a fine young singer needs a very, very solid basis in knowing how an orchestra works, to the extent that they have a rudimentary ability at the piano, that they can coach themselves, just as they call it, note bashing. I say that a knowledge of the orchestra, but a knowledge of the orchestra in as far as a singer, you need to know why you need to sing ahead of the beat, depending on your distance from the conductor. You know, in opera, as opposed to symphonically, and sometimes it's very interesting, you put I'm sure you've experienced this, Sandra, you put an operatic singer in front of the orchestra doing something symphonic, and they're invariably, for the first 20 minutes, miles ahead of you. Because you are so, I'm not talking about you specifically, but
I'm a schlepper. I'm a total schlepper, so just...
but there's, no, you're not. Anyway, the point is, I think that therefore, as encyclopedic a knowledge as a young singer can have about why stringed instruments react to a beat in a certain way of a conductor, as opposed to percussive instruments that are, you know, on the nose. A knowledge of harmony. And I don't wish this to be intimidating, but I think a knowledge of harmony in that you have a visceral thrill when you sense a dissonance, when you play a dissonance or sing a dissonance. And the dissonance implies a consonance. And therein is this visceral feeling of a little struggle. And you then take that to whatever vocal line you're singing, and you personalize it in that all of a sudden it's not just about a series of notes. It's like a surfer. It's like, you know, feeling.
Yeah, play with it, your own.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's not just about vocal knowledge or vocal technique. It's knowing what a great violinist does. It's knowing, working with conductors at the keyboard. But I mean, that's all sort of getting ahead of myself. I think that, and what I wanted to say is that I think through the schools, through Curtis, through Juilliard, through San Francisco, through many of these great colleges, that basic knowledge, that general knowledge of music is so much more emphasized than in Europe. You know, in Europe, I remember encountering singers, soloists, really very good ones. And I asked them, they were still at college, and I said, do you go to choir? And they would throw up their hand. Choir? No, choir. I'm solo. Oh, I know, as if the worst possible thing you could do would be to ask a singer to join a choir, when we know, and the best in the profession know, that it's singing with other people that you begin to understand so much more, coming back to the point, Carrie, with being part of a horn section. What is intonation?
Yeah.
What is right? What is wrong? Well, we know there isn't a right and there isn't a wrong, but singing with other people, breathing together, is all integral to becoming a great artist. And so that's what I would say to those young artists out there.
And language,
not in order to intimidate them, but to inspire them to, you know, go and buy, what's his name? Max Rudolph. What's the name of what's it called? Conducting? The Grammar of Conducting. Yes.
Great.
Just go and get that book or reference it online. It gives you some really fascinating insights into what a conductor has to do to learn his trade.
Okay.
And then, so, you know, just you can Google anything, for goodness sake. You can, just inform yourself of all of those basic things that when you're standing for or sitting for 40 minutes and then you get to stand up and sing the second last movement in Mahler's Second Symphony.
Yeah.
That you're not just sitting there, gosh, this is going on a long time, but absorbing everything that's going on around you, taking all these musical strands, and then making it the most inevitable thing in the world when you stand up and you sing about the rose, you know?
Yeah.
Own it.
I feel like in those moments, when you're not singing, your seat should be vibrating with what's happening all around you. I mean, it's just it's one of the most amazing things to do, especially for someone like me who primarily does opera. When I get the rare chance to sing a symphonic work, is to just sit there and actually be able to encompass all of that sound around you. So it's an amazing thing. So yeah.
Soon. We'll get to do it again soon. I know.
Oh, please, God. Yeah.
How did you come to love? I know the moose. Yeah, was there a moose?
I was actually looking up this time. Is there anybody listening out there?
Oh, no, please.
Sorry, go on, Sandra.
So, I know you said earlier when you were in Edinburgh that you listened to recordings of Wagner. Mm-hmm. Is that where that love of Wagnerian and Germanic music came from, or because you were in Germany, or was it just something in your soul?
You know, I've asked that same question all my life, and I still haven't. I don't really want to know the answer. I feel that there's something about not knowing. The mystery of why it is still keeps it so mysterious and miraculous for me, as opposed to, I know, you know, I have the answer. Mm-hmm. I think it's all of the above, Sandra. I think, now I'm going to say something that it's a sort of a classic platitude, but I'm not so sure I sought out Wagner. I feel as if Wagner sought out me. I feel as if this profession wanted me for some reason. And then that first visit in 1971 to hear the Rheingold, something happened in me that I have no idea. I've often told this story. I don't know if you remember the films, one of Steven Spielberg's first films called Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, oh yeah.
And the image of that little girl and parents are long, you know, they're sawing logs. And it was at a time when there was an end of TV programs. Mm-hmm. And you got this white noise. And she was still sitting in front of the television screen. And then out of this, you began to discern voices, and you discern things far more solid. And then she leant a little closer, and then this hand emerges from the screen. You remember that image, and grabs her and sort of draws her in. Mm-hmm. And that for me is analogous to somehow listening to that Wagner in 1971. Some hand emerged from that orchestra pit, took me by the throat, and it hasn't let go of me ever since.
That's awesome.
God, that's how I feel about Italian music, especially like Verdi. I feel that we, all three of us, have been given a gift, and I think that it's our duty to pursue that gift and to follow that gift in our life. And for me, it honestly, I say that Verdi comes down and talks to me in the middle of the night, but he whispers in my ear and says, Sandra, you know, sing that a little softer. But honestly, it's like my air. If I didn't have Italian music, I don't know what I'd do. And it's just in my soul. And that's what I always tell people. And I can't explain it any other way either. It's just, it's so it's ingrained in who I am now. So I don't know. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful the way you explain that, Sandra. And I'm just reminded now of one of our orchestra committee members at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, who a few weeks ago, while I was still in Berlin, after was wanting to give up the whole being part of an orchestra committee and speaking on behalf of the orchestra and all the chore. And of course, they had a lot to do. Deutsche Oper has, well, if you know the Met, then it's not quite like that, but we have upwards of 35 different titles per season. So there's a great deal of work to be done. And she was thinking, oh, I've been doing this long enough, and I'm just kind of exhausted, and this, that, and the other. And weeks into the lockdown, weeks into the COVID shutdown, I met her. We were still meeting on a regular basis to talk about a variety of things, not least what do we do, any ideas about chamber music, what can we be doing that is virtual. Yeah. And I remember she mentioned to me that she had decided to stay in the orchestra committee because these weeks of silence, these weeks of, and thinking about what you're saying, Sandra, these weeks of not doing what she had on some level completely taken for granted, not doing that, she felt as if she was renewing her vows. She felt as if, oh, I miss my music so much, and I miss being there on behalf of my colleagues to give us even a better chance to make music together. And so she is now a gung-ho about remaining on the orchestra committee. And I think this is what we were all at the moment experiencing. We all want it to end. Please let this end soon in a safe way. But I think we're all just reminded of how lucky we are and of how we express ourselves, where our true voice lies.
Yeah.
Whether it's a singer, whether it's an instrumentalist, whether it's a conductor, whether it's a composer. And I don't think we'll ever take for granted what we're doing ever again.
No, I know I needed it. I needed, and I think Carrie and I, we've both come full circle. We both didn't sing for a good couple of months just because our souls were so empty and
hurting. It was painful. It was painful to sing opera. It was like I'd start doing it and it just was a meltdown because it was the question of nobody knew anything, and is what I just did at the Kennedy Center the last time I'm actually going to do what I love to do. Nobody had any answers. I still feel like we don't know the safety and all of that stuff, but and that's why in a way Sandra and I started this, because there's also not only making music, but it's the community of people. It's that connection to all of us that love to express ourselves in a certain way that I really missed these conversations and talking to one another and finding out how you're doing. And so
it has come full circle for me. I feel now I was so burnt out right before this started because last year was a stressful time with family and just 4 new roles and going. And it was like I was on this little hamster, going around. But it was good for me now. And I feel like I've come back to my passion is even more now to do it. I love it. I realized that I loved it and I needed to stop and reassess and say, yeah, I do want to keep doing this. And it is my passion. And I think we all have moments in our lives where we question what we're doing and is it important and should I keep doing it? Mm-hmm. And I think that if we try to focus on the positives of this time, yes, I know people have died and it is a horrible pandemic, but on a musical level, I think a lot of us artists now are feeling more inspired because of it. And I don't know if you are as well.
I think what inspires me is the fact that, and this is why I think we have the best profession in the world, even in such circumstances, that music has never been a career for me. Music has never been a job for me. Music is my hobby. It's my profession. It's my passion. It's just all encompassing. But I think, and what I'm being inspired by now is my need. Sorry, that sounds a little immodest or a little pretentious, but I'm inspired to reach out again. And I was interested in what you mentioned, Carrie, to the effect that you as musicians, my wife is now staring through my just specially set up for today. Are you going to come and say hi?
Yeah.
This is like Stephen Colbert, always turning around to his right. This midget of a wife.
Sarah, you don't know Adele. We went to school together at USC.
Come and sit.
Hi. He's an amazing repetiteur and pianist and wonderful coach. How are you?
Hi.
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah,
Oh, you ladies are all made up and dolled up. I'm totally.
Oh, come on.
Wyoming
You are
style.
Pilates queen. It's
You
okay.
look gorgeous.
Well, thanks. Yeah, this is my music room, and Carrie's in Nashville. So
Okay, and just out of shot are two bottles.
Bottles?
Two bottles of really very, very liquid gold.
that, and then I might have a beer in honor of Mr. Runnicles' beer to stage right, please. Or wait, no, stage left it was, right?
You're going to get the man fired. Careful.
You're going to edit
You're
that.
fired as a page call.
You're going to edit that one out.
Yes, I am.
Nice to see you.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
What I was going to say, Carrie, was I think, first of all, I think it's absolutely terrific what you're both doing, and this kind of conversation. That so often I now know why it's so hard for Stephen Colbert to keep a straight face when he's having this.
Is she doing
Left on his right going. No, she's just put on her moose head.
Love her.
No. What I was going to say is that you're finding out how people are doing. How are we all coping? I don't think it's being impudent to say that many of us have experienced in the past conversations in the canteen or during rehearsal. How are you? And it's usually a litany of here's my chance to network and tell you, well, next week I'm in Boston, and and there are many jokes about that. That it's sort of seeking every conversation as a form of self-promotion.
Yeah.
And I think this is an incredible, monumental reset button for all of us to just be so grateful for, even as we're not singing, even as we're not performing, to have been, to your point, Sandra, to have been given this gift.
Yeah.
Is that when we are talking to one another, ultimately, it doesn't matter what you're doing in 3 weeks, or when you're speaking to other people, it's more important now to how are we all doing? How are you doing as a human being? Because many of our colleagues, we still don't know. Many of our colleagues may have been infected by this virus, and there's something even more important than our art, and that's our love of our fellow human being. I think that's something that, if we can take something away from this, I think that would be, for me, the salient issue.
Not what are you doing, but how are you doing it?
Yeah.
And also, it sometimes can be a job, and I think we have to, like you said, that monumental reset. I needed it, and I know a lot of my fellow colleagues needed that monumental reset.
But I'm kind of ready for that. Like, we've pressed that reset button. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get back to work. I need to be around my people. I miss all of you. I miss it.
Yeah, I know. Well, we should let you go. I know you have family there, but do you wait, one more question if I can.
Sure.
Okay, Carrie has one. Go ahead, Carrie.
What's worn underneath the kilt, Maestro?
Exactly.
Yeah. Nothing's worn, madam. Everything's in perfect working order.
I love that accent. It's so good. What were you going to ask? Is that what you were going to ask? Because I have a feeling.
No, not about the kilt.
I'm sure that was the question.
I've always wanted to know that, so I'm really happy that we have that discussion. I just had a question to go back to the parking lot Berlin performance. I mean, what was it like rehearsing, and where were you able to rehearse somewhere? Did you have to rehearse in the parking lot because it was outside? I just was curious about that.
We had to rehearse outside because, yes, the only performances that were permitted in Germany, or certainly in Berlin at that time, were outdoor performances. Nothing could be done inside. And we we didn't have many rehearsals because we had to, I mean, we were basically given permission to do this because of a certain mitigation of the situation in Berlin. We were given permission on May the 29th.
Whoa.
And on June I want to say the 14th, we had to have the show up and running because that would have been our original Das Rheingold premiere. And we wanted the symbolic nature of the day not to go unnoticed. And so we met for the very first time with the 22 musicians, all with their meter and a half, sitting apart from one another. And we had absolutely no idea what this was going to sound like.
Yeah.
So we had done a sound test a few days earlier with this stage being built out over part of the park garage. And the singers, because this is a quadrangle, so you have the rest of the opera built around it.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore the acoustic was unbelievable for the singers. So they needed no amplification at all.
Okay.
And of course, it was very immediate for the audience, who were nevertheless sitting socially distanced.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I needed to know what it would sound like. What is this going to sound like, the orchestra? So I said, you know how this work starts? I'm going to go down into the lower area. And by this time, the entire administrative staff of the opera had assembled, because this was June the 5th or June the 6th, and we had been closed since the middle of March.
Okay.
This was the first music anybody was hearing. So I came down, and as both of you, I'm sure, know how the Rheingold begins with that low E flat, and then and everything joins in. So I came down, and I think that will go down in my top 10 moments in my life where I was moved beyond words. And I looked around, colleagues, and some of the people I'd only known behind a computer screen or known in meetings, and they were crunching numbers. Tears were streaming down their faces. And it was just because the music had bypassed the head and gone straight for the heart, and they were just reminded of, oh my God, that's why I do this.
Yeah.
And so it was very hard for me then to go back, quite frankly, and start conducting the rehearsal and start rehearsing.
Yeah.
Because it's so many moments I could see the musicians themselves just choking up. And so in answer to your question, that was the feeling, and what I should say, the sound was miraculous from the orchestra. And that is a pure fluke because of this roof over it, because it's walls around it to support the heavy pieces of scenery that are otherwise stored there. So with the orchestra was, this would be a sort of John Adams description. There was a sound enhancement. We just boosted the sound of the orchestra a little because we were behind the singers. Right. I was singing. I do sing. It's horrible. My back was to the singers.
Okay.
But it was just, I say miraculous. The sound was incredible. And I was unaware of this, but Adele told me just about 4 or 5 days ago. New York Times had written an article about this very performance, and they'd seen a few things. And that, we did 6 performances of it. It's a little shorter than the normal one, and they were sold out in 10 minutes. So
yeah, amazing.
I go back in August and do a few more of these shows. And meanwhile, we're all eyes or all ears on Salzburg, because as you know, or probably know, in 1 week's time, Elektra, which is not known as a chamber opera, Elektra opens at the Salzburg Festival, and therefore we will find out that may be just the beacon we need, just that beacon of light. And
Madrid's been okay with their Traviata so far.
Where?
Madrid.
Really?
It's a semi-staged, but still they're full orchestra, full choir, full singers, just socially distanced, and so far it's been okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I hope I get to work with you, Carrie,
I
Sandra,
hope so too.
again, wherever. I don't care, as long as we get to make music together again.
Absolutely.
So do you have a few moments for a few rapid fire questions?
Yeah.
They're not embarrassing, I promise.
No, okay, rapid fire. Gosh, now this is where I need my drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a doubt.
Rapid fire.
Best piece of advice you were ever given?
Oh,
all right.
I've received so many. I know. Be a better listener than a talker.
Ooh.
That was given to me by my father. The art of listening, as opposed to the art of talking.
What's your most irrational fear?
My most irrational fear is being bitten by a snake.
Okay. Ooh, I don't want that.
It's totally irrational because I think it's very unlikely. Of course, if I could organize something that's suddenly,
Yeah.
the boa constrictor. Oh, it's my wife again. No, that's an incredibly. But I have so many dreams about snakes. I have no idea why.
Ooh, I have to look that up and see what that means.
Yeah.
What is something you do that embarrasses your kids?
Every Christmas, I bring out. They're called carolers. They're made in America. These wooden.
Yes. Yes.
And all they can talk about is Daddy's dollies.
Okay.
They call them my dollies, and I say,
Daddy's
carolers.
dolls.
But they love them too. And
That's cool.
You know what? When they grow up, when they get older, they're going to say, I miss Daddy's dollies. Yeah. So. Right.
Okay, I ask this of everyone. What is your favorite curse word in any language?
my favorite. Do you know, I think my favorite one is, can I say this on NPR? Oh, this is not NPR. Can I?
You can say anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my favorite is Scheiße.
Oh, yeah.
Carrie, what's your favorite curse word?
Motherfucker.
There you go. We are not PG rated.
Mother. Oh, he's learned half a word.
Yeah.
What other profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ooh, good one.
I would like to be a pilot, and I have a large flight simulator down in our lower level. I have one in Berlin too. And if I'm not conducting, I like a Daniel Harding, although Daniel Harding has gone on to become an Air France pilot. My father was in the RAF in the Second World War.
Cool.
And I love flying. I'm not clever really enough to do it, but I have this big flight simulator, and that's what I love to do. That's what I would do if I were not conducting.
That sounds awesome. I want to come over to your house and try that out.
You know, it's the same kind of thing that it's like a little like conducting. It's multitasking. You have lots of dials, or lots of lines of music, and you're just basically scanning them all just to make sure everything is in perfect working order.
Okay.
Want to ask the last one, Carrie?
Sure. Okay, last question. If heaven exists, what do you want to hear God say as you walk through the pearly gates?
This reminds me of a joke, but not even on this show will I tell this joke.
Oh, come on.
No. What would I wish him to say? Oh, I feel as if there must be an incredibly witty response to this.
Doesn't have to be.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't have to be. People have run the gauntlet.
I thought you just said I have to pee, and I thought, oh.
Well, there you go. That's what God. You want him. I have to pee.
No.
Oh no!
Really,
gone downhill quickly.
Yeah.
It's been a bloody long way here. God, it's taking forever.
Yeah.
I have to pee.
There you go.
I don't think I can come up with a better response. And now I'm going to get hell to from Adele, who's off stage left.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Adele. That's funny. People will love it. Thank you. And
Thank you so
hopefully I
much.
see you in December in Berlin. And good luck with the
Will
festival.
do.
Okay, take care.
Stay safe.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Oh, bye.
Like you don't have enough to do right now.
She doesn't have a job.
Oh, excuse me, Chris. Bite me really hard. Seriously.
Turning the screw.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what Duncan's like. What are you doing? You sit around and eat all bonbons all day. Okay. How many full-time jobs do we have right now, Carrie? Yeah.
Maid, lover,
Maid.
cook,
Oh, I forgot about the maid and lover. Cook, no, not for me. That's
cook, screaming divas.
She cooked dinner one night. Now all of a sudden she's the cook.
I'm the cook.
Oh, yeah. Hey, wait. I made dinner once.
She learned how to use the air fryer.
I have a question because I said it in the interview, and I've been in this room many times, your music room, but I never really fully comprehended that all of the tchotchkes in there are from shows.
Yep.
Every show you have a tchotchke?
Pretty much. Stolen property of the Metropolitan Opera. This is Queen Elizabeth's ring.
Well,
and they're going to be looking for that when they do Roberto de Vera again, but
they're coming after you.
Get that, and that's why I wait, here we go with Billy Friedkin.
Right.
This was the lavender that I held when I sang the originally cut aria from Suite Angelica. What the name of it is, I can't remember now. But
okay, so can we have a pact right here, and it's on a recorded thing? Because we're both outliving our husbands and living in Shady Pines together.
Yes.
So can you just sign all that so when we're in Shady Pines and we start running out of money, you're either going to leave it to me if I outlive you, so then I can sell it all on eBay. That's how I feel.
I do like my headshots, like with me going.
Brilliant.
You got to take some.
That's why you a diva star.
You got to take some. You got to take some. You're going like.
I can't open my mouth that wide.
Yes, you can.
You're going to see my toothless diva.
That's why you don't want to open your mouth that way.
Okay.
Bye.